chapter 21, introduction to the measure of economic performance. So if you have to measure the performance of an economy, that means the performance of a country, there are ways in which you have to measure the performance of the country. So if you have to use the macroeconomics to measure the performance of the economy. So we have microeconomics, which is all about the individual markets, like the market for housing, the market for banking, this individual market. But when we talk about macroeconomics, it means the study of the economy as a whole. So you're going to combine all markets in this economy. That is macroeconomics. I think you understand the difference between micro and macro now. Yeah. So to measure the performance of the economy, if you have to measure the performance of a country or an economy, you need to use macroeconomics. Are you with me? Yeah. So here I wrote microeconomics. It is the study of individual markets within an economy. I explained that already. Then we have macroeconomics, which is concerned with the study of the economy as a whole. Now you combine all the markets in this economy together. So importance of macroeconomics. One of the usefulness of macroeconomics is that it tells us about the performance of the economy. It tells us the performance of the economy because we are studying the economy as a whole. Yeah. So what is an economy? An economy is a system that is trying to solve the economic problems of scarcity. An economy is a system that is trying to solve the economic problem of scarcity. So, with macroeconomics now, how do we measure the national economic performance? That is what we're going to now. So we can measure the national economic performance through economic growth, unemployment rate, inflation, and balance of payments. So we start with economic growth. When we talk about economic growth, it's basically the output of the country, the output of the economy, what you produce in an economy, your PPC. So if the output of an economy increases, that means the economy is performing well. So here I wrote economic growth. This is when the national economic performance is measured based on the rate of change in output. Mm-hmm. So an increase in output will mean that there is an economic growth. Yeah. Do you understand? That means, in this country, the output in this country, the PPC in this country has shifted outward. So if the PPC has shifted outward, that means the GDP will increase. That means the country or the economy is performing well. Do you understand economic growth there? So economic growth can indicate how well the economy is performing. 2, unemployment. What is unemployment? Unemployment is a situation whereby an individual who is willing and able and capable, who is also within the age limit to seek for employment, couldn't find one. You are able, you are willing, you have the capability, you continue to search for a job, and you can't find one. That makes you unemployed. That is unemployment. Unemployment is a situation whereby an individual who continues to look for a job can't find one. So, unemployment is a major problem in society because it represents a waste of scarce resources. So, when there's unemployment, it means resources are not used to reach their potentials. Yeah. Do you understand? So, whenever there's unemployment, it means that resources are not used to reach their potentials. So, with this, there's unemployment. So, a low unemployment, when the unemployment rate in a country is low, it means that the economic performance of that country is better. But high unemployment rate means that the performance of the economy is poor. Mm-hmm. I think it's clear. Yes. So, to measure the national economic performance of a country, you can use economic growth, which is based on the output of the country. You can use unemployment to check. So a low unemployment rate means that the economic performance of that country is fine. A high unemployment rate indicates that the performance of that economy is poor. The third one, inflation. What is inflation? A persistent rise in the average price in an economy. A persistent rise in the average price in an economy. That's what we mean by inflation. So low inflation is better. So when there's no way we do without inflation. Because if you are going to buy a product, the cost price of a product would have been inflated at the selling price. The cost price of a product would have been inflated at the selling price. That's why you are making profit. That's why there's producer surplus. Without inflated price, there won't be profit. So if you are buying for 1 and you are selling for 1.5, the price has already been inflated. So the inflation rate must not exceed 2%. Do you understand? 2% of the price.
Okay.
All right. So we have positive inflation. When you talk about positive inflation, this implies that price continues to rise over time. A positive inflation means that there's an increase in inflation. A negative inflation means that there's a reduction in inflation. That means prices have started falling. So a negative inflation will mean that the performance of the economy is better. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Then we go to deflation. Deflation means a fall in price. You know, a fall in price, what does it indicate? It indicates that the output of a country will continue to fall. Because at that point in time, prices are falling. Firms would not have that incentive to produce more. Despite the fact that consumers will be willing to buy more. But because they won't be able to make profit due to deflation, they won't have the incentive to produce. So it is always difficult when there's deflation to increase your output, to increase the economic output. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Then we go to the balance of payments. Balance of payment records the transaction between a country and the rest of the world. So it has 3 items. It has the current account, the capital account, and the financial account. But here we're going to talk about the current account. So for the current account, one of the items of the current account is the balance of trade. So when we talk about balance of trade, it records the value of goods and services sold abroad, which is export, and the values of goods and services bought from abroad, which is imports. So what is export? Export is goods sold to foreign customers. Goods and services sold to foreign customers are export. And imports are what? Goods and services bought from foreign businesses. Do you understand? Yeah. So the value that has been recorded for export and import, that means the balance of trade import, the visible balance of trade and the invisible balance of trade. The record is what we call the balance of trade. So balance of trade that is visible, which is what? Goods and services. Goods, import and export goods. The invisible, import and export services. Do you understand what balance of trade is? For the balance of trade, we have visible good balance of trade, invisible balance of trade. For visible, we are talking about the import and export of goods. For invisible, we are talking about import and export of services. So imported goods are goods that are bought from foreign producers or suppliers. Exported goods are goods that are sold to foreign customers. Imported services are services rendered by foreign businesses. Exported services are services rendered to foreign customers. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So for the balance of trade, there's a balance of trade deficit and there's a balance of trade surplus. There's a balance of trade surplus when the export exceeds the import. That means when the balance of trade export exceeds the balance of trade import. That is a balance of trade surplus. So a surplus in the balance of trade implies that the economy of the country is performing well. But when your country is witnessing a balance of trade deficit, it means it imports more than exports. And that means the economy is performing worst or poor. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So these are the indicators of economic performance.